Hello, guys. How are you doing? Hope you're all well. Slight little technical hitch, but we got there in the end. We managed to get just across that lake on a fastly deflating dinghy. So we've made it at last. We should have another member here, Brit Girl, but she's unable to make it because of family obligations. So we all wish her well. Hi, Brit Girl. Hope you're managing to check out the feed at the moment. But I have got two other guests, the veteran himself and a fellow, you could say, independent journalist. I like to call him. I'm not sure I'm happy with that title yet. I'm still a painter and decorator, but
I just go with commentator on stuff. That's it.
right, there you go. Commentator, the man himself. He was the man who accompanied me at the Telford scandal. So most of the other footage that you've seen, probably if it's not redpillphil, a lot of it will be WarKettle himself. The man travels, is what can I say, he's a marathon man. That's all I can say. He gets out and about. So the WarKettle, hello to you, mate. You all right?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me once again.
You are welcome, sir. You are welcome. And last but not least, somebody that everyone's been dying to meet since an interview that was conducted at that event, the Telford March, and that is Carole, aka Nanny Robinson. So without further ado, hello, Carole. You all right?
Hello, Phil. I'm fine, thank you. Thank you very much for having me on. It is all, as you know, very new for me. So, but yeah, I was blown away by the video that you did and the comments and the response that came from it. It quite moved me, actually. I was quite emotional when I was reading some of what people were saying. But once I got over the flattery part of it, it just made me realise how many people out there feel the same as I do. And I think we just somewhere along the line we're looking for an outlet, aren't we now? I think things have moved along the line a little bit, and I think you know, a lot of people now are looking to go just that little step further. Quite what that step will be, I don't know, but it's finding the courage to speak out. I think that's going to be the key.
Yeah. I mean, I was saying before. I mean, we've kind of, this is a bit of a deja vu moment, isn't it, guys? We've kind of covered all this before, but unfortunately, it was just to ourselves. But yeah, we're saying. I mean, for me, what you've done and what you are representative of, you demographically broke a narrative, because we're all supposed to be burly men that have tattoos, generally white with skinheads. They probably want to bring back the era of the 19-hole lace-up Doc Martens, the tight jeans, and hate on that. That's the kind of,
they want to stereotype the whole group so that they can shut you down.
Without that, because it's easy for them to do that if they can, you know, package it in that way.
I think people are very aware of that, and on the marches that I've been on, nobody's put a step out of line. You know, I know there must have been a lot of guys there wanting to punch people, but nobody did. Nobody reacted to the counter demonstration at any of the marches that I've been on. We've risen above that, and that is where we have to be. Because if we just once, one person could spoil the whole thing. Because if one person goes, then everybody will follow, and then the media will have exactly what they've been pushing for, which is us far-right extremists causing all the trouble. And that is what we've got to avoid at all costs. But the atmosphere on the marches is brilliant. I meet some lovely people, talk to, you know, no end of people.
How many marches have you been on, Carole?
Oh, not as many as you guys. I started going to some Brexit ones after the referendum. I did the FLA one in London. I went down to Speaker's Corner when Tommy Robinson was there on that snowy day.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah.
I made my mind up. I think it was about, I wanted to go, but because of the snow, I thought I'm not going to do this. And I was sort of, you know, because it's a couple of hours drive for me. But I looked at the motorway cameras on the M1 and thought, no, it's clear, I'm going. I was so glad I did. Just to be part of that sort of atmosphere is brilliant. I did Telford, I did Birmingham, and I did Telford, as you know. That's where you collared me.
Yeah.
If you go to these events, redpillphil will get you guys.
Yeah.
He's there.
Coming to
He's
a town near you. Oh, geez, yeah. People are going to be running from me now, guys. They're going to be hiding. I'm going to have to start dragging people out of bushes to interview them.
People do know you. If you go to a few of the marches, you see a few faces with their cameras, and you can relate to them, and you talk so easily. You sort of led the conversation and made it easy for me to sort of get my point across.
Well, thank you. I mean, it's a two-way conversation. You were just easy to talk to, and you knew what you were talking about. So, there was
sometimes I do.
Well, the way you come across, so positive, so strong, but saying demographically, it would have shocked a lot of people into wow. Even grannies go to things like this. I know that sounds a bit wrong saying that, but it's like
it's not. It's not wrong, and it's the perception, isn't it? But you say I'm strong. I'm not really. I've just reached a point where I've had enough. And I'm in a good position in that I'm retired. I don't have to worry about a job. A lot of younger people have to consider what they do and how they're presented. I've got a lovely little group of friends that I meet at the marches, and I go with my homemade banners, and some of them were a little bit uncomfortable, and I understand that because they lived more locally for a start. So, they've got a local visibility, and they work. And what a terrible situation that we can't do these things without thinking, am I going to lose my job?
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, where have lost their job just for posting on Facebook?
Yeah,
not even going to marches or things like this. I have known people that do go to marches that have lost their job or been ostracized from family members and friends and whatnot.
Well, some of that goes back to our friend Tony Blair, doesn't it? Sorry.
No, it's right. It's right. At some point, we're going to have to get angry whilst we're talking. So when you bring names like that out, that kind of makes the hairs on the arms stick up.
Anyone that's done a little bit of looking into what's going on, other than Ted Heath, whose act was completely treasonous, has been proven to be treasonous with the releasing of that FCO document. They all knew before he signed it that they were giving away our sovereignty. They knew it, and it's been stealth. It's been a gradual stealth process, and within that stealth process came the Barcelona Declaration. Following on from that, the ISESCO document that I quoted wrongly at the march. The name of that is, I wish I would be organised, the Strategy for Islamic Cultural Action Outside the Islamic World. That's the people. It's long. It takes a lot of reading, but people need to read that because that spells out what the Muslims are going to do. They're not going to integrate. They don't intend to, and effectively, our government have given permission not to.
Yeah.
I haven't seen this. I'm gonna have to look into it myself.
No, yes, food for thought. I mean, with the Barcelona Declaration, the amount of people in the comments that were talking about that now. Yeah. So you have red-pilled a lot of people, because I know the one thing you said to me is that I don't know why people found what I said so spectacular, because everybody knows it, kind of thing, or at least that's how you felt, that you wasn't saying anything new.
Yeah, perhaps it's because the people that I talk to, that and when I say friends, they're online friends, but I've actually become friends with them as well outside of that. Because we talk openly about it, I guess I feel that everybody on these groups is the same. But perhaps they don't. Some people do go onto sort of Facebook just to do the comments and things. But if I see something that I've not seen, I'll go away and have a look it up, and I'll try and find various sources for that information to make sure that, it's not fake news or, I've got it wrong. And on the whole, the conclusions that I come to have brought me to where I'm at. And I just think that, I guess I think that everybody sort of sees it the same way that I do. And maybe I'm wrong with that. And there are still people, even within the marches and things, that, you know, need to find out a little bit more about what's actually behind it.
Well, I mean, for me, everyone has a line in the sand, red lines. That, you know, some people, that clip, that interview might have been their first red pill. You know,
I hope so. I mean, if I've made that little bit of difference, then I'll be happy.
Without a doubt, without a doubt, you would have. Because for me, Carole, I think within people who do YouTube, there's people that have been watching and researching various subjects, like me, on certain subjects, and others I know a little bit, but enough to kind of generally see the picture. But with everyone, there's a degree of information what they know and how informed they are. You know, some people are joining it for the first time, maybe this stream.
Yes.
Just with the demographics of this stream, they might look at it and go, "Whoa, hold on, these are not right wing, these are not," and then that might make them from the, you know, tomorrow onwards then go down this path. And I've noticed that.
There is so much, though, you know, that you need to research, that you can't do it all, and you certainly can't. I certainly can't retain it. You know, it's a question of when I hear a topic, I think I know about that, but I can never bring up the relevant document or whatever would prove my case without going back to having a look at what I've found out previously. But because it covers such a wide you know, spectrum of things, I mean, it starts with joining the EU, obviously. That was where it all started to go wrong. And the first concepts of the EU, the immigration, which started for us in 1948, when the Empire Windrush came down the Thames. That was the first attempt that they made at mass immigration. But the people that came in the early years wanted to integrate. You know, they wanted to be part of the British way of life, and they no longer want to do that. You know, the Islam is here to conquer. There's no question in my mind that this is the case, and the government actions just reinforce that. You know, because everything that they do closes us down.
See, you brought up a brilliant point, because that's why people are conflating, even a lot of the black community are conflating what's going on with people that are dead against radical Islam and conflating it with, oh, well, because these guys are black or brown, when Islam is not a race, but they're still doubly conflating it, that they're thinking, well, you know, this was like when we were coming over and we were treated. No, you know what? There was a lot of hard times when all that immigration was going on in the first wave, but what people have come to realize is that the black population have assimilated, and they've, you know, gone into society, and they've made the society, and we've still got a moralistic Christian type of values that means that we have got similarities.
But it doesn't even have to be a Christian value, because I've got some neighbours of mine, lovely Sikh lady, and she said to me a little while ago, "I don't know what's happening to this country." You know, she's been here a long time. You know, so it's not just, and she's obviously not Christian. You know, but even the early immigrants are seeing what is wrong and how wrong it is. And it makes you, you know, I mean, you can buy into all the conspiracy theories going, and, you know, you've got the Coudenhove-Kalergi plan, you've got the New World Order, you've got the Bilderbergers, you know, you've got the Fabians. You know, there are so many things that you can go away and look up and read and see what's happening. My theory on the Fabians is that George Orwell was a Fabian. I think that's documented. And he fell out with their ideas. And I think he wrote his book as a warning to us.
1984.
Yeah. I think he wrote it as a warning, and you know,
he knew a lot. He knew the blueprint of what was to come. You know,
I think so, and that was partly because you know, he had been involved with the Fabians. That's my theory. You know,
there's certainly a lot. I mean, you've got Aldous Huxley. You know, him and his brother. They were, although he was an author, and what he, a particularly Brave New World. People see it as almost like a sci-fi, but that was pretty much a blueprint of what the elites really want to make of society. And, you know, people could argue that we're heading that way. You know, I can see it. We've got certain people that want certain roles, and we're there now. I mean, we've got a tier system like you would not believe.
And you know, the Muslim, and when I say Muslims, that makes it sound as I mean all the Muslim people, and I don't think any of us do. But again, you know, quoting statistics, you know, about, sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say it's never all.
Sorry?
I was just saying it's never all.
No, it isn't.
No, but political correctness means that you have to stop, backtrack, and then explain before you. Yeah, it's just the way it is, you know, because people will just pick fault with you even when you do that. But as soon as you go, well, these Muslims, it sounds like you're saying every last Muslim. So you have to redefine your words. You have to specify. It's very often second generation immigrants that are more militant than the parents. Well, the first wave with anything, we're just glad to see the back of where they were leaving in the first place. You know, generally, So they're quite happy to assimilate into a society because a lot of them were escaping persecution of their own country. So they're fully aware and know what their country and their values are all like. So they've
but then they're just trying to turn it into, I mean, what's the saying? They've come from there to here to turn here to there.
Well, you know, and we're allowing it.
Our government, we're not allowing it. Our government. My anger goes towards the government, this one and previous ones. My anger doesn't go to the people. Those people in Africa and the Middle East, they didn't all suddenly wake up one day and say, oh, I know, let's all go to Europe. They were told, there's propaganda distributed in those countries that tells them go to, because they know which countries they want to go to, and they know who the soft touch is.
I mean, don't forget, to become a refugee and whatnot, it used to be just your neighbouring country. Now it's like, well, hold on, let's just send them right over there. And it's like, well, let's forget all these little countries.
They're picking and choosing. They're deciding which is the best option. Where can I get the most, you know, for the least effort?
Yeah.
You know, but, you know, this is driven. It's not an accident. I'm totally convinced of that.
Yeah.
I can remember when I first started looking things up and I saw the Coudenhove-Kalergi plan and I thought, wow, that's a bit extreme. And then you think about it and you think that's what's happening. But this is, you know, so all these different conspiracy theories all sort of come into one basket in the end. And, you know, you've got the elites trying to drive it.
Time tells, doesn't it? You know, it's a conspiracy, but then somewhere down the line, most people just look and go, hold on, this conspiracy said A, B, and C was going to happen. And then you look and you think A, B, and C has happened. And it might be 20 years from that original conspiracy. So that gives it validation to think, well, hold on, if that conspiracy is right, then
the rest follow on.
You know, so
I've got a little saying that I've got: a conspiracy is only a conspiracy until you start to see the evidence, and then it becomes a fact.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we're at. We've seen it, and also once the conspiracy has reached a certain level, I mean, I sound as I need my tin hat on, my tinfoil hat, really.
Well, you're in good company.
If I'm being honest,
Yeah, I see.
I don't know about this Kalergi plan that you've mentioned, so that's another thing I'm going to have to make a note of and look into, to be honest with you, because I can't comment on that because I don't.
Right, Kalergi was the founder of the EU, Jay, originally. And one of his major quotes, I don't know too much myself, but one of his major quotes, and I'm paraphrasing, so I'm going to totally butcher it, is basically to turn Europeans into like a mix between like a negroid race, like all brown, like Egyptian looking. And the way to do that is to basically just flood what is, you know, predominantly white countries with people of other ethnicities, and over generations, you'll get that. Basically, that's what I understand.
Yeah, it is. It's sort of a homogenized society. But he came. I mean, how can so much credence be given to a man who was of mixed race himself? I think one of his parents was Japanese or something. and the other one, European, I can't remember which country now. I reckon he just grew up with an identity crisis.
Yeah, he didn't know which one to support for. All right, let's just merge it.
So he thought, okay, let's do away with this. Let's homogenise everybody, and we won't have the problems.
But you know, the funny thing is, Carole, I think naturally it will happen anyway, because we've all been conquering each other over eons. Yeah. So we're all an amalgamation. But what hurts with this is that this is done on purpose. This is opening the gate and pushing millions of people over there, not this country, go there, go there, with a plan to achieve. And then that's where the question mark, you know.
The elites didn't want to wait, did they? They wanted to escalate it. And I say to my friends, you know, basically that once their plan reaches a certain point, and I've been saying this for quite a while now, once it reaches tipping point, they will escalate. And that's exactly what they're doing now. They're escalating all this free speech, you know, curtailing of free speech. It is all part of.
Well, it's inevitable, because with what they're doing, if you've got a playground full of kids, and all of a sudden that playground is pretty full, so you shouldn't really fill it up. But then another busload of kids come and you open the gate and shove them in. It's inevitable that the kids are in there when they're feeling really packed in and tight, and they're going through all the social issues of being packed in and tight. They're going to say something. So it's inevitable for them, the establishment, to curtail your speech, political correct. Oh, no, you can't call him. Oh, if you do that, we're going to deport you, because, you know, and then do it under the guise of we want everyone to have equal opportunities. How better way on a deceitful level to bring that sinister plot in and curtail people? So they know,
It is the deceit that gets to me, the deceit that the government have carried out, and the hypocrisy that goes with it. You know, they dress everything up to make it sound, oh, aren't we wonderful? You know, we're doing this for humanity, and they're destroying. They're just totally destroying everything that we've built up over, centuries, and that people have died for. They're just giving it away.
Well, even if you look at it on a plain view and take yourself far removed from all of this. With the way it's going, a couple of generations' time from now, demographically, Europe is going to be a different place. I'm not qualified enough to even say, well, that's right or not. Common sense tells you that is going to happen. So for me to say, well, this is wrong, it's wrong for someone to say, well, you're racist. It's a basic fact for someone to say this is a legitimate concern for anyone. You know, I don't mind immigration, but don't have to throw another 4 people in my bed when I haven't got room. It's a single pissing bed.
I've written a little, as you know, I like to write things, but I've written a little made-up story about the uninvited guests that have come into my house, and I've done it in the concept of being my house. I'll show it to you one day, perhaps.
Certainly. Well, I know you've got a poem there. I hope you. Yeah, I'm sure.
I've always got poems.
You've got a poem in the clip, right? I can imagine you like it. You've got gun holsters, but instead of guns, it's poems and just flicking them out at will. So for me, the next question I'd have to ask you: what was your red line? What was your red line that made you take that next stage? Whether it was the next stage going to a march. You know, because you've already explained to me that not every one of your family members are au fait with your views. So it takes a lot for you to go, well, whether you like it or not, I'm going to that march.
They all know that things are wrong, but, you know, they're not concerned enough to delve into it and do more. So within my home life, other than my son, you know, it's all kept. I just, you know, don't talk about it. But the bizarre thing is, whenever we all get together and we have a conversation, doesn't matter what topic comes up, I can bring it back to what's going on. And I really have to bite my tongue because, you know, and sometimes they say, you know, basically, oh, you know, okay. And I say, all right, I'll get off my soapbox. But, you know, I have to rein myself in because they want to moan about it, but they don't want to know why it's happening.
Blinkers.
The red line that made me start speaking out. I think the fact that the government were ignoring my concerns, you know, I wrote loads of letters and did loads of things. And I went to the Last Day of Silence demo in London. And I'd sent a letter to Theresa May just a bit prior to that. And I showed it to one of the organisers, and they, you know, they said, read it out. So I stood up there shaking like a leaf, you know, reading this. I had to hold the mic on my chest to stop it shaking. But I thought, no, I'll read it. And I think that was sort of empowering. It was, I can get a message across. You know, I'm reasonably good with words. I write a lot of different poems, and I've got quite a lot, you know, relative to all these situations. That's the way I express myself.
What about you, Jay? What was your red line?
Oh, what, to like come out and start protesting and things like that?
Yeah.
Well, it kind of happened in like stages. So obviously I've been opposed to religion for a long, long time. I've been an atheist since I was a kid, basically, and I always have been. And then probably about 6-7 years ago, I became sort of anti-theist against all religions, obviously. And then obviously I noticed that there was this growing problem with Islam, basically. Went to a number of, like, I even joined the Labour Party at one point to like go to meetings and try and talk about it, but it's not the place at all, really, to have that conversation.
And when you said that word there, I can just imagine every computer streaming this would be like, oh my God, what's he going there for?
Well, we live in a country with only we live in a two-party state, so it's either Labour or the Tories. And to be honest with you, like, the only real way to get rid of Jeremy Corbyn is everyone to join the Labour Party, and then at the next party election vote him out, because at the moment it's momentum that are keeping him in. All these people who support Corbyn are momentum members, and momentum is more than just they're more than just a group. They are a group that only support Jeremy Corbyn. They don't support the Labour Party and everyone else in the party. They support Jeremy Corbyn and all their members. It's basically a cult of personality for them. And until we outnumber them, nothing's going to change when it comes to Corbyn being the leader of the Labour Party. But I got kicked out, so I can't vote for another 5 years.
Oh, right.
Dare we ask why you got kicked out?
Good question.
I've been suspended a number of times from the party. I think I was suspended 3 or 4 times in total before they actually kicked me out, for various things, for speaking out about Islam, speaking out about feminism and social justice. And then I made a video where I reviewed Anne-Marie's new party for Britain.
Oh, yes.
I just made a review video of it, and I said good luck to her. And apparently that was enough for me to get kicked out for 5 years.
Good Lord.
Right, and you've never
so much for freedom of speech then, eh?
Yeah,
Whoa.
but before all that happened, I'd already started my channel, because I think I started my channel at the back of sort of beginning of last year. And then the first march I actually went to was Annie the Greek's march, Gays Against Sharia, here in Bristol last year.
She spoke at one of the rallies I went to.
Oh, she's an excellent lady, Anna. First time I met Annie was at the Bristol march that you referred to there, Jay. My first march was the UK Against Hate. I'd been looking at what radical Islam had been doing. I didn't believe the phony bin Laden crap. I knew it was more to it than that. I knew that this was being thrust upon us. We're being, you could say for me, Islam was being put up as a bad guy, although Islam has got some nefarious issues within it. Totally agree. But I feel that it's been a bad guy that's been presented to us.
Sorry, say that again, sorry.
I'm just saying that I thought that Islam was pretty much a bad guy that's been presented to the West. I know
you think they're not as bad as we think they are?
No, not at all. I think it's very nefarious. I think the Quran has got some horrible, and totally within Sharia law. I'm totally in agreement with everything you're saying. However, I think Islam is being used as a tool because of what you're speaking about, because of our irrational immigration and because of our incompatibility, they know that Islam and the West are going to collide. They know.
It's inevitable that, you know, centuries, you know, the two ideologies and religions have been against each other. You know, what on earth possesses them to think that, you know, they can overcome it? Because the Muslim children are indoctrinated from birth. I mean, what's the saying? You give me the boy till he's 7 and I'll show you the man. Yeah. In other words, you have those first 7 years to imprint into their brains the way of life that you think is right. You know, so this is why young children should be chastised. This is why young children need to be shown the boundaries, you know, and they need to learn that there are consequences for their actions. And if you do that up to the age 7, then you've pretty much got the foundation for I was going to say a decent adult, but an adult in your own way of life.
Yeah.
And let's just, you know, so they start early on. And speaking to Muslims, you know, they are taught from the cradle to hate white people and anybody that's not a Muslim, you know, and they really are taught hate. Now, again, it's not all of them.
Yeah, you can see that on there's a YouTube channel which translates a lot of Arabic TV from places like Gaza, Yemen, Qatar, even Iran, and you see it all the time where young children are being indoctrinated with other TV shows that are aimed at children to kill for Islam, kill the Jews, the non-believers.
You know, and this is what they do. They're catching them young, and it's what our government have done as well. Not in the same vein, but you know, the Monet professors in the universities, you know, indoctrinate our young people. This is why a lot of young people, you know, think the EU's, you know, absolutely wonderful, and why ever would we want to leave it? Because, and I know this from 2 people that are going through university. You know, this is first-hand accounts of them having to doctor the assignments that they hand in, because they know that if they put what they want to put, they'll be marked down.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
so they what you're saying is they've got to give the answers that suit instead of giving what they think is a critical answer. I've seen it myself with my kids and the homework, you know. They're not encouraged to use their own brain. They're almost encouraged to, well, that's the answer there. So whatever you're going to do, make sure you get to that answer. And that's false.
I watched a video clip of a child in America arguing with his teacher. And he got the dictionary out to give the definition of the word. And she still argued with him because he wasn't following the line that she wanted him to follow.
Yeah.
I mean, these undercover videos, okay, you accept that some of them are going to be fake, but you can usually suss those ones out. But a lot of these undercover videos that are in the mosques, in the madrasas, you know, in the schools, it shows you what's really happening. And whether our government, I mean, or, you know, they can't pretend they don't know. I mean, you know, they can't. Why would Jeremy Corbyn in 2006 want to push through that race law that he did? You know,
in order to curtail.
And that was 2 years after the proverbial hit the fan with the grooming gangs. Who was the Times guy that wrote? Oh, he supposedly exposed it, but Tommy Robinson exposed it prior to that, didn't he?
Right. Okay.
But
Tommy's the one that brought it all to the forefront.
He is.
Tommy.
Yeah, and he's being hated for it. I mean, they're finding it easy prey because of his background. It's all building a straw man. Even if the guy could really turn into a patron saint now, and they still would use what he's done in his past with everyone.
Former EDL.
Yeah,
doesn't matter what interview.
I just remind everybody that the EDL wasn't a political group; it was a freaking human rights organization.
Yeah, yeah.
But this, as someone who, you know, I class myself as left wing and whatnot. And when I speak to people who also I class themselves as left wing, there's a good number of them that are like, oh no, Tommy Robinson, racist, Islamophobic, homophobic, all the names under the sun.
Yeah.
And what do you say to him, Jay, when they say that? Sorry, Carole.
Go on.
I think he's a short, cute, cuddly bear.
Oh, what you like? No, good answer.
100% right. That is 100% right. I mean, well, actually, no, he's wrong on a few issues. Like, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's a few things I could pull him up on, but at the end of the day, when it comes to the big issue, the issue of the conversation, when it comes to Islam, yeah, he's
spot
right.
on.
He's got a point. You know what? And you can demonize him all you want, but same again. From the point he was at years ago when he's talking, from where we are now, has he got a legitimate point? Can he not go, I told you this was coming, I told you this may happen? And for me, that's all he seems to keep doing.
Yeah, I think the thing is, you know, time is on his side now, because, you know, what he's been banging on about for all these years is there in everybody's face, and they still say racist. I mean, I find that just so pathetic. You know, it's like, oh, that's answered all the problems then, hasn't it? Let me call you racist, let me call you names, and we'll shut down conversation.
But that goes back to the same thing what we were saying, Carole. It's a beautiful way for them to enable them to have this mass migration flow and to stop any public discourse. Because if they didn't call you racist, there would have been hell to pay by now, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, imagine how many people it's frightened off with that tag and the building of straw men and this, that, and the other. I mean, well, that brings me on to another subject, which is, you could say it's in line with the Telford scandal and whatnot, but primarily involves the establishment. I was sent a link yesterday by one of my subbers, and it was to a documentary by a Bill Maloney. Now, Bill Maloney was a chap who I think he'd been regularly abused, so he's made it his mantra as he's become an adult to kind of document and get to the bottom of the grooming scandal, politicians, you know, all the nasty stuff that they're onto. And he done a documentary about a Elm guest house. Now, it's a place, it was first reported apparently in 2012, and the claims of sexual abuse and grooming of children at parties held in this house in the 70s and 80s at the former guest house in Rock Lane, southwest London. Apparently, Labour MP Tom Watson suggested in an October 2012 statement to the House of Commons that a paedophile network had existed during this time, and apparently he got chastised for bringing that up. But then it goes on, because I tap this in, and it says, during 2014/15, allegations against several leading politicians of the period now are mostly deceased, which is ironic because that's what they love. They'll release all the secrets once they're dead, and then, you know, you can't really put anything back to them. Exactly. But this is the bit that got me. Were made public in the British press in October 2015 in an episode of Panorama. Okay, so what they're saying is Panorama covered this in 2015. They examined the claims, and then, don't forget who Panorama worked for. So they examined the claims, and then they discredited them. So we all know Panorama's BBC.
There's a history of that with the BBC.
Well, Jimmy Savile, Rolf Harris, Stuart Hall, you know, the list goes on. They're the ones that have been made public.
Yeah.
But within this documentary, it states apparently they had a guest book within this guest house, and they've got signatures of high-ranking politicians. And there's been testimony from people that said they were abused there of all different ages and this, that, and the other. Even to the point of this guy talks about snuff movies. It really, now I don't know whether you're aware of that term, right? But so, I mean, you're talking with, in this documentary, politicians like Leon Britton, Gary Walker, Cliff Richard, Peter Brook, he's a live peer. We've got Colin Peters, who was a QC and a convicted paedophile. And last but not least, Cyril Smith.
Yeah.
Now, where I'm going with this, he's an MP of Rochdale, okay? We've just been to Telford over grooming gangs. And guess where I'll be going this Thursday? Rochdale, over what? Grooming gangs. But yet you've got Cyril Smith, a part of the establishment that was involved in grooming,
Phil,
raping. Yes, go for it.
Because I was having a chat with my mate the other day, and he made a valid point that we need to use the correct words to describe it, to describe this. Because when we say, "Oh, grooming scandal," and he made a valid point. He said about how, like, to foreigners, basically non-Brits, when they speak English, they think like dog grooming and it's a cuddly, soft thing.
Right.
We need to highlight that this was, you know, rape, sexual assault, beating, murder, sex trafficking,
the procurement of children.
And if you want to know who that was that said that, that was my mate. Atheism is Unstoppable. He's a legend, awesome YouTuber.
Top
check
man.
him out.
So, man, no, you've got to be semantical, because it does, the connotation to that, you do. You see a little poop, with hairdryers and stuff.
But this is what they do all the time, don't they? They give nice little labels to things. I mean, what's the latest? CSE. Now, when I was younger, CSE was as an examination. You know, it was below the GCE, or which is now GCSE, but CSE. CSE doesn't say anything. It doesn't hit you in the face, does it? Child sexual exploitation.
Yeah, little bit more. Less.
They try to normalise things by giving them nice little names.
Without a doubt.
And it's gone on for ages. You know, when road rage first came out, you know, what's road rage? It's some thug behaving in a totally unsociable manner. But they gave it a nice little name, road rage, and it sort of normalizes it. It makes it acceptable.
Well, the implication,
and they do this. Sorry?
I was just going to say, the implication with road rage is that anyone who's on a road is susceptible to road rage. No, people who have lost control are susceptible. Most people are not like that.
So it normalizes it, and that's what they do. Grooming gangs, as Jay said, you know, it sounds nice, doesn't it?
No, I concede that. Definitely give it the right term. I mean, the point is, with this, we can, you know, we're grooming gangs with people, habitual raping of girls, boys, of young boys, curing of children. Now, we can look to a certain demographic and go, statistically, you know, I've read, just like you, Carole, I've read stats that 5% of Muslims, and there's a list of 250 convicted, what you would say, groomers. Yeah. And 90% of them,
they're only the ones they've caught.
Exactly. 90% of those were actually Muslim, which was main origin was Bangladeshi, of all ages. Okay, so you can look there and think, right, now I know why we're going to these marches, because look at them, blah, blah, blah. But my point is, the very establishment that is allowing this migration flow, that is telling us all that we're wrong, we're racist, we're bigots, we're this, we're that. These are the very guys that are bringing in the laws that can say that we can go into the EU, and then the EU then, you know, pass on all kinds of laws to allow this migration flow. And when you hear about all the stuff they're doing, I'm not saying Islam or the migration flow or the child grooming is lesser. What I'm saying is, the people that make the decisions that's led us to where we are now are probably even worse. This establishment, because this goes to, when we're talking about snuff movies, we're talking about Satanism. We're talking about, you know, what Jimmy Savile, all the rumours, the hearsay. This documentary lays out a hell of a lot, but it's only a small nugget of what is actually there, you know.
I'll say this though, Phil, you're on your own on that Satanism comment, mate.
But you don't believe in that, you know?
No, but I don't believe in it at all. I mean, there are people that say they're Satanists and everything, but a lot of them are just atheists who like to be edgy and stuff.
Well, you know what? You've got just like goths and everything else, you've got people just like veggies, and then they'll go and have a cheeky little chicken sandwich. Unfortunately, Jay, you know that there are people that take it to the fullest extent. I know of people that,
of course, I bet there is, yeah.
And what we are, for me, what we are living through at this moment in time, for me, seems like a good and evil, you know, kind of scenario. We're all common sense thinking, and we know what is going on is wrong on so many different levels, whether it be migration, you know, taxes, this, that, and the other, the health service, how people can die. I mean, remember not so long ago, there was a young baby that I think NICE rejected any care. I think she was called Charlie, was she? She was only she was only a few months old, and I think Donald Trump had actually jumped in and said, you know what, NICE have said because of what she's got, there's very little chance of success, so we're not really going to spend all that money. So basically, we will allow her to die. This is what I remember, roughly this what happened. Donald Trump come up and said, you know what, we've got doctors over here that will allow the treatment. Don't worry about it. They still turn around and says, no, we cannot allow you to leave this hospital. Now, if I remember rightly, they even went further and would not allow the child out of the hospital to die at home. So where is that person's freedoms? For me, that is, it's not only sick, it's evil to treat human beings like that. And when you've got the highest of the highest elite that are doing all these kind of nefarious things. I mean, in this documentary, it talks about going on private boats and kids not coming back. And it talks about going all the way up to the royal family.
I've heard this before, I must admit. And not looked into it, but I've heard it before.
It's deep. It's, you know, it's a rabbit hole. And like I say, this... Sorry, Carole.
Don't you think it's strange that all these things are coming out now? You know, the white people that are doing it. And again, it's this trying to normalize things. You know, if we can just...
I'm not saying it's even a white, oh, you know, Islam's all right because look, white people. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that the people that, in a sense, that are governing us, that are making these decisions, are governments from all over the world.
Yeah.
Because this is a cabal. It's not just England.
No.
You've got the Lolita Express in America and all that kind of stuff, and the conspiracy of silence and the amount of systematic abuse of kids that used to go missing from schools that was directly involved with Washington. You know, you've got children going missing from Haiti. You know, you've got it's a worldwide cabal. This certainly.
I don't think it's like that, to be honest with you at all, mate. I think, yeah, there are some people out there that have done things that are in their own agenda, and they have an agenda to do things this way for whatever reason, greed, personal reasons, whatever. But I think a lot of politicians are just stupid and don't realize what they're getting into. Like, for example, I don't think Jeremy Corbyn has got bad intent. I just think he's being told information by the wrong people, basically, and he is easily manipulated.
Yeah, there's that to it. Yeah.
Well, I don't know, Jay. I love you. I love you, mate. You're a great
I love
guy.
you too, mate.
But I know we are totally opposed on certain things, but respectively as well. So that's fine.
Exactly.
You know, freedom of speech, mate. That's all good. But no, I mean, for me personally, I think even with 6 degrees of separation, you know, with the Jimmy Savile thing that went on, they couldn't even get a panel of people to actually hold an inquiry, because what they found was within
people on the panel would
they knew the people involved.
Yeah, because the corruption on that went so deep.
Yeah. So
wasn't there speculation at the time when Jill Dando was murdered that the speculation was that she was going to come and expose what was going on?
I've heard that. Yeah, I can't say it's
prove it or disprove it, but I know that did the rounds for a little while. Whether there's any foundation to it or not, I don't know. But I think we all just think, well, yeah, you believe that they would or could do that.
Well, when you say that the Kalergi plan and how evil it is to kind of treat people in this way, like they're just pawns, because we've all known that deep down, but it's only every now and then that a headline will pop up that might red pill someone. Yeah. But I think a lot of us now are desensitized, and we all know politics is corrupt. And by just saying it that way means that we accept what's going on. And because we accept what's going on, why do you think we are where we are? It's systemically rotten to the core, like a cancer, without a doubt.
It is, but I think some of the blindness that we suffered from was the fact that we all knew things, you know, for years, decades. I mean, you know, I've known that things are not right, but I don't think anybody could conceive of the fact that our government would betray us in the way that they have. And it's not until you get to the acceptance of that they are capable of this, that you then start to see things differently. And that's where a lot of people are. They can't believe, no, the government wouldn't do that. Why would the government do that? You know?
Yeah.
And that's my passion is against the government.
It's the
not just this one.
Yeah.
There are 650 people that sit in that chamber, and they stand there and they've got the audacity to say, oh, the honourable this and the honourable that. They haven't got a clue what the bloody word means.
Well, you've led me on to this. When you say it's the establishment, I agree with you. The establishment create problems. So when I was saying the Islam is the bad guy, for me, it's a problem reaction solution. They've brought something that's incompatible to us that they know,
it's incompatible.
They know it's going to create a problem.
Yeah.
They get the reaction, which is the reaction that's going on now, and the solution will be blah, blah, blah. So just to say how cancerous the establishment is, I don't know whether a lot of people know of the word democide. If anyone taps in, even now, come off this now and tap in democide. And when you do, democide is a term revived and redefined by the political scientist R.J. Rummel as the murder of any person or people by their government, including genocide, politicide, or mass murder. Now, how big a figure do you think that is in the 20th century of human democide, Carole?
I would say pretty big.
What about you, Clay?
I was about to ask you what that was, sorry, because I'm kind of a bit confused here. What's this word democide you said, sorry?
Well, let me read it again, because I want to semantically get it right. It's basically death by government. You know, whether it be wars, you know, where the government's basically been involved.
Right. Okay. I've never heard of this before.
Right. No, well, this is it. It's a true life term. And it's to this figure, 625 million in the 20th century have died by our government. No, not our government, but governments of the world. You know, you're talking... what's gone on in communist regimes, what's gone on with Pol Pot's and Chairman Mao, you know what, you know, all the Stalins, you know, all the people that it's all been collated together. And 625.
Some of it would probably be wars as well, because in the wars that we've fought, the generals have knowingly sent hundreds of thousands of young men to their death, knowing that they weren't actually going to achieve the goal, you know, that they were fighting for. There's lots of instances of that in the First and the Second World War.
So to me, that answers your point about what you were saying, that, well, some people can't get their heads round that the government are capable of doing anything against us. When you've got a figure like that, I think we were on at one, when I was researching it ages ago on democide, I think through colonialisation, it was something like we were attributed to something like 60 million. And that was just that one event. That's not other wars conducted all over the place. So it's crazy when you think of how little the public is regarded in terms of their decisions and what they want to do. They are a cut above in their eyes. They are an elite, you know?
Yeah, we're not seen on a par. We are just, you know, fodder. I mean, you know, in the wars it was cannon fodder, wasn't it? You know, we are just there to fulfill their own goals. But when you think about it, there are 650 politicians that sit in the House of Commons. What's the population of Britain? 66 million?
Yeah, something around 66 million.
Yeah. When you do the ratio, you've got those 650 that have destroyed the lives of all the others. Just 650 people.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
you live in a gated community, far removed from the life, you know,
totally removed from it all. You know, I just don't think they've got a clue. I really don't.
So what about you, Jen? Oh, sorry, mate. Sorry, Carole.
No, go on.
So what were you going to say, Phil?
I was just going to bring you in there, mate. I mean, when you listen to a figure like that and you round it up with all the problems that we're going through, what goes through your mind?
Well, I've always thought that I mean, I like democracy. I like capitalism. I think they're the best, especially because there's no other systems we can use. They are the best out of all of the systems. I do admit that, yeah, especially in this country, massive change does need to be done, especially in the way that we vote. First of all, I think a lot of the problems will be solved with, because at the moment we're on first past the post. Alternative voting would be a lot better. Representative, I can't say the word properly.
Proportional representation.
Proportional representation, exactly. Yeah, you've got it. And to be honest with you, I think really there needs to be more decentralizing of power. For example, I think Parliament and the Downing Street government should be more of a sort of like a federal sort of system. And then we have a whole Parliament just for England. Wales is given a Parliament. Scotland's a Parliament. Northern Ireland, give them more powers like they do in Scotland. Give Scotland more powers, devolve more stuff to spread the power around, because this is the problem with all types of government, be it dictatorships or democracy. It's about, with democracies, it's about spreading the power. With a dictatorship, it's about keeping the power centralized to one or two people.
Do you not think, though, that if... Sorry.
No, go for it. Go. No, sorry.
Do you not think, though, that once we're out of the EU and we take back the control of all the decision making, don't you think our politicians have basically just got lazy because they haven't got to make a lot of the decisions, have they? You know, they just follow the diktats.
With the EU, the establishment and the media have been playing this game of passing the buck onto the EU and blaming the EU's at fault for so much stuff. I won't dispute that at all. But I think what's also to blame, the biggest problem would be the fact that our government and our mainstream media has passed the buck off and passed it off and blamed others for the problems. When our government could have done something about it. Like, for example, in the EU, we have our MEPs that vote up or down on issues, but at the same time, when we vote in a new government, they send in that, because there's 3 levels, they send in their people who they want to represent the so-called government of each country in that level of the EU bureaucracy. But our governments in plenty of times have just not bothered doing stuff in the EU and just been, or if they have, or like, for example, when a country's brought something forward to make the EU more democratic, countries like ours and others have been like, you know what, maybe not so much on board with that just yet. So
yeah. Is that because they're not willing to
spreading the power about more?
Yeah, the more you localize, the better, I think. You know.
Yeah.
Because as we can see now, it's lopsided. You've got London kind of being the dictator, and there's plenty of towns and cities around England that are suffering, that are not getting any say because, you know, for whatever reason. So you've got to give them some kind of power in order to kind of rebuild themselves, I guess. You know, it's I don't know how you change this system. I think we need to just get right in there and stick it's like a gunpowder plot moment. I think something needs to radically be changed, you know, in order to go forward.
But see, I can remember back, I mean, they don't use it so much now, but they had the term spin doctor. And Alistair Campbell was an expert at it. You know, this is why politicians don't answer honest questions anymore, you know, because they're looking for the spin. You know, honesty and integrity have just disappeared from it. I think basically our governments have got lazy and have just been quite happy to let the EU basically run the show. And I mean, there are lots of things that our government could have done to curb immigration, and they didn't. They had the remit to do it, and they haven't done it. I just think they've got damn lazy. And
yeah.
Do you think they've been bought off though? You know, I mean, lazy sound. You know, yeah, I get what you're saying. They can sit back because they're in a nice position, but do you think the hands are tied because they've already been bought? Our country's been pimped out already, so there's very little they can do.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's one, or if there is some that have been, but I would say the majority of them are, because I'd say that politics is quite so polarizing. A lot of people are so entrenched in what they believe, they're not willing to sit down and talk about it. Like, there's been plenty of stuff here tonight that either I don't know at all about, or I completely disagree with either Phil or yourself, Carole. But we've sat down, we've had a chat, and we're listening. And I think with politics, this sort of thing doesn't happen enough, especially when it comes to party lines. Really.
It is the polarization, isn't it? We've sort of lost the art of debate and discussion. And a couple of things that have come out tonight, I thought, okay, no, I don't know that I really agree with that, but you don't instantly want to attack somebody because they've got a different thought process to yourself.
Well, yeah, someone having a different opinion is not going to harm you unless he's actually wanting to inflict harm. Well, yeah, exactly. That might be a clue. Maybe around his back with a big evil grin on his face. Maybe that's a clue. But, other than that, we've all got to be able, because you said it beautifully in that interview, Carole, that ingenuity is formed from different opinions. So, I mean, this tonight, we could change the world with a difference of 3 opinions.
Well, that's right. I mean, you've come out with stuff that I've not heard of. So, I'll go away and I'll have a look and research it. Whether I agree with you at the end of it, it doesn't matter. It's opened your mind up to another train of thought. And that's what's happened. We're all closing down. We're all putting our blinkers on, and we're only seeing one perspective and not opening our minds. And that, it does come back to the government, and the curtailing of free speech. But the polarization is being driven, isn't it? It's being driven. I think they want the unrest.
Yeah. Well, can you see, when I was growing up, we only had 3 channels. Now, I can see back then, the manipulation would have been very easy to put over them 3 channels to control that news source, the news feed, what comes out. As Sky's come into it, as other terrestrial channels have come into it, it's obviously going to get harder. The conglomerates, I think it was still something like 70% of the world's media is owned by 6 conglomerate companies. So they've still got a hell of a control, but you've still got a lot of satellite with different channels here, there, and everywhere. And now we've got the internet, which all gives us instant access to information everywhere. Now, for me, that is playing its part in a rise in the new consciousness. Whereas 30, 40 years ago, in order to get to this point, you would have to be a scholar, because you would have had to have read all the books known to man. I'm not a big reader, I'll tell you now. I tend to do a lot of watching. I've watched documentaries ever since I was a wee lad, and I love information taken in through audio and through visual, and I just kind of progress through there. I've read bits, I've read little bits of white papers and government papers, but I do tend to soak in my information through watching a hell of a lot on different subjects. So in today's market, I find it a lot easier for people to get that information, hence them wanting to close us down now, because this is a very dangerous time for them, because we're on the cusp of us all going, you know what, we can see who the bad guy is here, and we're all getting slowly informed. We're not rashly jumping out and getting angry. Being informed is empowering. And for me, you don't need violence if you've got a brain in your head and you can kind of formulate your words. Knowledge is a tool. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Knowledge is a tool. And just like I heard, was it Pol Pot? So it might be Chairman Mao, where anyone who was found wearing glasses through his regime was killed. because if you had glasses, you could read. So if you could read, there was some form of information that you could maybe pass on. So you were then a danger. So, you know, going back to the democide thing and everything else, it kind of comes back to that. But it's the age of information, and we're all slowly waking ourselves up.
Yeah. And that this is what they're trying to do with the internet, isn't it? Close it down more and more, because it's just too easy now. You know, somebody mentions something, you can just click, 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 and you can read about it. All right, you have to select your sources, you know, to make sure you've got a respectable source that you're getting the information from, and perhaps cross-reference it as well to make sure, you know, you're not just getting a blinkered view of what you're reading. But more and more people that are unhappy with things are doing this, and we need to. It's not knowledge. Knowledge will be the key, and then getting our message to them, either by the demonstrations, the marches. Keep writing to them, keep telling them what it is you want, what it is you don't like. I mean, I my own MP, I think he just got so fed up with me in the end. I sent him a couple of page diatribe, and he phoned me up because I think some of what he wanted to say, he didn't want to commit to paper. But it was, and he was basically saying, "What do you want me to do?"
Really?
I said, well, you're the politician, you know, you should know what's needed. And I know that basically this particular guy, and I'm not going to say his name because that would be unfair to name him, but he's definitely wants Brexit to happen, and he has also tabled a motion, not recently but a little while ago, to have the burqa banned. You know, I personally see the burqa as a weapon on their side, because it's intimidating, and it's making a statement on their behalf. Because 20 or 30 years ago in the Middle Eastern countries, ladies weren't committed to wearing the burqa as much as they are now. You know, they are on this worldwide. Sorry?
Especially in Iran.
Yeah, it's changed completely. You know, if you see pictures from, you know, years ago they're wearing, you know, modest clothing, because that's all the Quran dictates, is that they need to be dressed modestly. You know, they don't have to be dressed up in a bin liner, you know, it can be quite a modest garb. All right, so they don't like our girls flaunting themselves, but that's no excuse for what they do to them.
Well, it works both ways. There's plenty of things that we don't like what they do, but hey ho, you know, if you're in this country, you're going to see what Western people do, and whether you like it or not, that is it. If I go to China, I'm not suddenly going to complain and going, "Why are you eating that rice? Why aren't you eating fish and chips?" I ain't going to last long if I've got an attitude like that. You've got to succumb to the culture that you're actually going to.
Yeah, but they don't, and they won't. And I know I've got a quote here somewhere, but I can't find it.
Anything you want to say, Jay, on the subject?
No, not really. I think I've said everything really I can think of at the moment.
Right, well, while we've got this little gap, mate, let me talk about what I was talking about before with you on this marathon live streaming. How many live streams have you done in such a short space of time, Paul?
I think this has got to be my 5th one in the last 2-3 days.
Right.
Wow.
Right. And I've got to bring it back again. There was a live stream I was watching of you the other day, and who was it that it was, mate? You kind of told me.
That was on a channel called The Jamie Show, which is a channel that me and my best mate Amy run. Right. I know she's out there listening right now, so I'm just
oh shit.
Yeah. Hi Jamie, I love you, mate. Hi.
Hello, Jamie. I've never met you before, but I tell you what, you made me crack up when you sat on a live stream eating your tea. And it's just like, what? Just as easy as you like. Yeah, I'm just eating it and letting them chat on, and the camera's watching me. I'm not bothered. Hey, look at my food. It's good, isn't it? Oh, just, you know what? I'm going to look into my phone now. And it was so relaxed. It was like you were sat there at the table with her, and I thought that was nice. It's something I would never do. I mean, I don't drink or smoke while I'm on a live stream because, I just want to portray myself in the right way. I've got a cup of coffee in a flask, and I've got 2 bottles of water.
Well, shall I put my whiskey down then?
Yeah, you put your keg down, Carole. Yeah. Make sure it's out of shot.
No,
Good on you, girl.
it's what me and her do. We just, we kick back, we relax, and we just, talk about whatever it is we want to talk about. Some days we'll talk about, Islam or religion or social justice, or sometimes we'll just be like, mate, I'm having a shit day, and just rant about how crap it is, and just keep it casual.
Yeah. It's the best way, though, and it's a good sounding board. I mean, this goes back for me to why I keep going back to marches, because something happened at that first march, as well as that stupid woman saying what she did. But I had an instant camaraderie with people there. I had a connection, and you alluded to it before, Carole, that when you go to these events, you might get treated the way you do with your family. You might have certain friends and you feel, I can't talk about 30% of what I want to talk about. You go to these places and boom, you feel better straight away, because you're all on the same page, and you might not all have the same levels of knowledge. Some might have more than you, some might have less, but they're all comfortable talking about it. There's like no political correctness here. No one goes too far, because they're all decent people. They won't want any kind of racial slur said at them, so they're not going to say it. They're just nice, decent, common people. But you do feel better and easier in their company.
Yeah, definitely. And you just feel that, I mean, the FLA marched out last October was awesome. The number of people that were there, peaceful, not an ounce of trouble. Everybody spoke to everybody, and the atmosphere was just great, because that you're with people that share the same values as yourself, and that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And I do personally think the marches do empower you a little bit. I always feel sort of re-energized, and and you realize that we have got something to fight for. This was once a really lovely country. It could be again if we're allowed to get it there.
For me, we've got to get our checks and balances back, and I think a march is a start. The political wing is another way of, getting in there, but I think we've given up our checks and balances. We've allowed the establishment just to do this, and as well as other things to us over many decades, which has brought us to this point.
Yeah.
What about you, Jay? What's your thoughts on the subject, mate?
I think we should do a number of things. I mean, it's not just one thing, because not everyone can go to marches and whatnot. But I think it could be as simple as just chatting with your family and your friends, signing petitions. Now, when it comes to petitions, I make this mistake, but I think everyone should always remember that change.org doesn't mean jack shit. Always check the government's petition site, because they have to legally respond to those. And if it gets over 100,000 signatures on it, they have to legally have it in Parliament.
Debate it,
yeah. So that one is always the one to check on. Sign those. Go to marches if you can. Write letters to your MP or even your local councillor and whatnot. And to be honest with you, I think if you want to join parties and whatnot, I'd recommend people also think about the two parties and try and vote them out. With the Tories, it's a little bit difficult because they don't have a one member, one vote system. They have a voting system for their members and then a system for the actual parliamentarians, so they can overrule who the next leader of the party will be. And Labour can't do that.
Yeah, I think the Tories, the MPs themselves, vote until it's down to the last two standing, and that's the point at which members can come in and vote.
I believe that's right, yeah.
I've actually joined the Conservative Party. I've never joined a party before, but my sole intention is that I think these local elections might possibly see Tories get a bit of a thrashing.
Yeah.
Which terrifies me, because it means that the votes are going to be going to Labour, and we've all seen what the Labour councils do or don't do with the child grooming.
Yeah, exactly.
So if we get more of them, it's the situation will get worse. They won't address it. But my sole intention of joining it was so that if it does come to a leadership challenge, I will have a say, and I'm hoping that Jacob Rees-Mogg will step into the fray, because he will get us out of Europe.
Well, we will see. I think the other two things I'd say really is when it comes to voting, is we have a problem in this country where only something like 37% of the population vote that are actually registered to vote. Everyone needs to vote. That would be a big help. And the second thing that would help is if you can't pick a party and there's no party that you really feel comfortable voting with, spoil your ballot. We are lucky in this country where a spoiled ballot is still classed, well, it's not classed as a vote, it is in a way, because they add up all the spoiled ballots at the end. And that's how the politicians actually plan, because this is something I learned in Labour Party, was they know who you're voting for. So they have a rough idea because they go around door knocking and whatnot, so they have all these lists. So if you spoil your ballot and tell them that when someone comes and knocks on your door, at the next election, the councillor or the MP of that area is going to look at how many spoilt ballots before they look at how many the Tories got, or UKIP got, or Greens, or Labour got. They'll look at the spoilt ballots and go, oh, there was a spike in spoilt ballots last year. Let's see what their issue are, because it's easier to wing them over than it is.
Sure.
So I think spoilt ballots is also a good way of helping.
They do. They carry more weight than not voting, for sure,
yes,
because
definitely.
they're recorded. They're recorded.
I'm guilty. I have never, ever voted. The only vote I ever participated in was Brexit, because of what was going on, and I felt passionate, and that got me out off my bum, so to speak. But the funny thing was, Jay, someone said something very comical to me on a comment, but I don't think they were saying it in a comical way, but it meant it. Because I alluded to them that I'd never voted. And the basically was a lovely young lady. She's like, well, why have you never voted? It's like, and I'm sorry, Carole, but I'm going to say it exactly how she said it, and I do apologise.
Don't apologise.
She said, even if you just draw a dick and a pair of bollocks on it, you know what it is? And I was like, oh, okay.
Love it. I love that. That's brilliant. I'm going to use that from now on. No more spoil your ballot. Just draw dick and bollocks on your ballot paper. That's the way forward.
I think that definitely constitutes a spoilt ballot paper.
Also, without a doubt. Oh my God! Yeah. So this is it. I mean, I need to. If I'm going anywhere now, I think for me personally, what UKIP are talking about is making more attractive to them. Gerard Batten, I do think he's coming across as a no-nonsense guy. Where it goes, who knows? But if I'm going to go anywhere, it's with these guys,
Ooh,
I think what needs to happen...
I'm leaning more for Britain myself, I am.
Right. Yeah, fair play, mate. Fair play.
But that's the problem, isn't it? These small new parties should all come under one banner, because it's just all it's going to do is diffuse the vote.
Yeah.
People are going to, let's say, okay, if they've voted Labour, they're going to split that vote. And it's still not going to be decisive. And because the vote's split, you're still really back to the two-tier system. I think they need to unite, and just give one good, strong party that stands for all the principles that they know. They're all basically going for the same principles. They all want Brexit. They all want this immigration problem sorted out. They certainly want the Islamification problem sorted out. They need to join together, because until you get unity, it's not going to be effective. It's just going to diffuse the votes.
Certainly stronger together is the term we use, and it is. I mean, we rather than over egos and getting partisan and trying to have four parties that are pretty much all trying to cover the same points, why you all just get over your issues and get together.
Well, they could field more candidates that way. That's the thing. I know UKIP are trying hard under Gerard Batten, and they sort of try. It's too late now for these local elections. The cut-off date for registering to stand has gone. They need to have candidates. But if you've got all these little parties, they could field the whole country, couldn't they?
So, changing the subject dramatically, I do believe you've got a poem there, Carole.
I've always got a poem.
Oh, yeah. Have you got one in the clip? Is there any chance you could recite it for the people? Because I'm sure they'll want to hear. What's this one about?
What happened to our England?
Ah, right. Okay, then.
What happened to our England, the England we all knew, the England we were proud of, the brave red, white and blue? What happened to our England that our soldiers did defend? They gave their lives to save us so that dictatorship would end. What happened to our England, our culture once so proud, our culture we were born to that made us sing out loud? What happened to our England? We no more recognise. We've lost our own positions because of all the lies. What happened to our England, the lies we have been told, the stealth and sheer betrayal? Our country has been sold. What happened to our England, been sold out to the quest of a heinous ideology that gives all to all the rest? What happened to our England? Where have our people gone? Taken over by usurpers, what have politicians done? What happened to our England? Were we given right to say that our country could be sold out, that we'd give it all away? What happened to our England? It's no longer ours to hold. We weren't asked, could we do this? We were tricked and then were told. What happened to our England? That they've given it away to a culture that offends us and we have no right to say. What happened to our England, who we held close to our heart? A third world now enslaves us and we must now depart. What happened to our England, to our heart and soul and love? If we hope once more to hold it, we must fight with them above. What happened to our England? We will not bow down and bend. We must fight and win it all back, or our hearts will never mend. I'll take a bow.
Well, I think you should. That is absolutely fantastic. You've got such a talent for writing poems.
It's how I express myself, I think. You know, it's all the things there that are wrong with what's happening at the moment. And it's just my way of finding a way to say it.
It's such the way you write it is so concise. Each word is so powerful when you're rhyming it. Even though you kind of finding a word to rhyme, it's like, well, bloody hell, that was the best word you could have used anyway, whether it rhymes or not, you know?
It's very much Pam Ayre's rhythm and rhyme, but that's the way I do it.
Well, have you ever thought of publishing them? Because I know a lot of people have said this in the comments. And
no, not really.
No?
I do it for my own satisfaction, I think, more than anything, you know.
Right.
I've done it over the years, you know, it's not just a recent thing. They've become more political, you know, but I've done some witty ones and some serious ones and some romantic ones, you know. But of late, I've done quite a lot of political ones. I've got a whole gamut of them, but no, not really thought to publish them. It's you know, it's just a way of me getting my feelings out and
venting.
And if it touches a chord, you know, if that raises a little bit of patriotism in people, then, you know, I'll be happy.
Yeah. Well, with the last poem and with that one, there'll be that sense of pride, you know. As you're reading that, I can imagine people just going, yeah, you know.
We used to be a really stalwart, proud country, and we've lost that. We've definitely lost it.
Yeah, it's certainly weakened now, isn't it?
Yeah, and that upsets me. You know, I find that very sad. You know, we used to be a very proud nation.
Hence what you're doing. For you to actually come out and, I mean, where can you see yourself in the future with what's happening? Because I
will go to as many demonstrations as I can. If I'm asked to speak again, I'd speak again. I can't see myself starting up a channel. You know, that was suggested in some of the comments. I'm an absolute technophobe, totally technophobe. And there are a lot of you out there that are doing it and doing it well. And people don't have time to sit and listen to everything, you know, so more and more people joining it's just going to distract, I think. you know, I'd be happy to talk to other people another time. You know, if you wanted to talk to me again about stuff, I'd be happy to do it. But I don't actually see myself doing anything, you know, on a platform of my own. It's you know, it's not where I see it going.
We could have a monthly poem recital. And then we could talk about other issues. I mean, I'd love it. Personally, I tend to do a few streams with Tony Bugle. I love the lady. She's watching now. Hello, Tony.
Yeah.
I would love to get you on with Tony next time, you know, if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
Because I know Tony would love to speak to you. And I know Tony, before you know it, Tony would have me wrapped round her little finger.
She's a very strong lady.
Well, you find it hard to refuse the old Baroness. I tell you, she's very persuasive. But I get on with her like a house on fire. She's an absolutely fantastic lady. But I know she would be dying to meet you. So that could be set up in the future. And any time you want to appear, you want to come on, you know, I would gladly have you on a regular basis, because your insight is so needed. You know, it really is.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I will be out of commission for a month because I'm going off to visit my daughter in Australia. So I shall be switching off. I might write a few poems while I'm there.
Oh well, you know, you might find it's easier to stay over there than come back if you're staying over for that length of time. It's
she'd like me to stay. I know that.
Would she? Oh, bless her. So how long is it since you've been over there to visit?
Well, she's been out there for about 9 years. See, this is the other thing with what's happening. You know, my family have been affected in lots of ways. My daughter left the country, not just because of the situation, but part of the, you know, she saw where the country was going and didn't like it. You know, they had other reasons as well. It wasn't the sole reason, but that was part of it. You know, she could see how it was changing and didn't like it. So I've lost a daughter to the other side of the world. I have a son who's an ex-military who went through a tough time. His circumstances changed. He could not get housing. He was refused help completely. You know, so maybe that triggered me a little bit, you know, because it hit me personally, you know, to sort of realise just how much is wrong. But no, since she's been out there, one way or another, there's not a year gone past where we haven't seen each other. So, and we're Skype all the time. So,
all right. So you're not as much of a technophobe as you're making out then?
Well, Skype's not too hard to work, is it? It's as long as somebody sets it all up for me, right. You know.
Yeah.
If it goes wrong, instantly it's.
Well, when we were doing it on Thursday night, it was me who made the boob, not you.
Oh dear. Well, it was a bit of both. But...
No, we got through it in the end, and you know, everything was fine. It was me that was. I mean, whatever you do not put me in charge of the nuclear button. And it's like, don't press that button there. Whatever you do, well, this one here, that's me all over. And so, you know, I know my place, but. You know what? You bring up a good point. To be fair, I feel with what I'm doing now, I'm absolutely loving it. I'm meeting fantastic people.
But you're doing a good job with it. That's the thing, you know. I wouldn't do such a good job.
Oh no! Don't sell yourself short. Don't sell yourself short, because people might think, oh, Phil, he comes across as a confident. Most of the time, I'm bricking it inside, you know. And I'm sure with this live stream, you were emailing me. I'm a bit nervous. I'm sure, even though Jay's a veteran at what he does, every time he turns the camera on, I'm sure he has that element of you know, you're putting yourself above and beyond the average person by getting in people's faces and camera and this, that, and the other. So mentally, I can't speak for Jay here, but I'll speak for me. Mentally, that's a big deal, you know. So there's a lot of almost burden to bear, and with doing it, there's a lot of your own life and time, because time becomes very expensive. You're sacrificing it.
Well, I think the fact that you work and do it is amazing, because I mean, I don't work. Obviously, I'm retired, and you know, I would find the time, not so much from me, you know, but from the family, from my partner, you know. because he's not involved in it the way I am, you know, I'd have to moderate my time, you know, so as not to exclude him. And it can take over. I mean, sometimes I sit up here in my little office and, you know, it's sort of 9, 10 o'clock and I think, oh God, I better go down. I'm not going to be flavour of the month, you know.
Time flies.
It does. You know, you get engrossed in what you're doing. And so I have to be sort of balance the time and things like that. And you as a young family man, you know, it must be even harder for you.
Yeah, I find it difficult because my wife's a career lady, so I basically have to be in house for roughly 3. Sometimes literally physically meet my daughter at school, but most of the time she's last year of primary, so I have to be in place, do the washing, do the tea for the kids, you know. So it's kind of literally. And then trying to substitute and in between all that, do comments, answer the comments, think of content for videos, film the videos. And you find that it does slowly take over. When I'm running a bath, when I go, sorry, Carole.
I was going to say, I can understand that it takes over.
It's passion that kicks in. I mean, same again, I can't speak for Jay. I don't think Jay's got any children, but even with the passion that kicks in and you kind of know in your own mind, you know what, my bath's running, I need to get out the bath and I need to kind of go downstairs. But you know what, there's a load of comments here. So you end up getting engrossed in comments and then that'll lead to something else, to something else, to something else. Next thing you know, the door will go and the wife's coming. And I'm like, you know what? I've not even sat with my kids. I've been upstairs on my laptop all the time.
Well, one thing you need to be sure that you do is make family time.
Yeah. No, it's right. It's time management. Yeah. It's so difficult because when you've got a passion and when you feel yourself, it's like a vortex, like you're going down the plug. Yeah. You've got this insatiable urge just to head towards that point and you can't help yourself because you get engrossed in this and the other. It's not so much out of an ego, oh, great, everyone loves me. It's not. There's so many reasons why I'm scared of doing this. And with each video, when that video kind of hit off the way it did, it's like, I don't want to be doing a job as good as this. In a sense, it's like, my God, because it makes it more difficult. It batters my head even more.
You know that video went stateside, don't you?
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah, it did. It did. You've got.
I thought that was absolute. Did you see it, Jay?
Yeah, the original.
I thought it was
one. Yeah.
I thought it was absolutely hilarious. It was. What were they trying to do? Motivate all the grannies, wasn't it?
That's brilliant. Well, that shows the effect that you've had, Carole. And that's what I was saying. It's a demographical change that it's like, whoa, hold on.
I think it was two things. There was that video, which obviously struck a chord, but there was the lady at Speaker's Corner as well that stood up to the police about the praying in the Speaker's Corner. And she made a big impact. And I know a lot of people have written letters of complaint.
To her?
Are you coming in, Jay?
No, to MPs and stuff, haven't they?
Oh, yeah, right, I'm with you. Yes, of course. So it was disgusting when the policeman actually, one, couldn't recite the law, and two, even if they could recite the law, well, we've kind of, what was the word? It's discretionary. The law is the law. So if I don't murder someone, I can get off because, we're going to just let you go under discretion, our discretion. Is that how it works?
The good thing is that people have had responses. If they've written to the Parks Authority, they've had responses saying, we have not changed the rules stand. There is no praying, there is no religious content to be gathered at the park. And then I also put out on Facebook the address of the police officer and the address to send a letter to, and said, I sort of put a draft copy of my letter out there and said, please send a letter. And again, it's the volume. So I think, I don't know how many people respond. Loads of people liked my comment. Whether they actually sent a letter or not, I don't know. But hopefully, in the coming short term, we should see a difference, and one would hope that they would police that place differently to make sure that everybody is living by the same laws. But I think, as I say, that video of mine, for some reason, struck a chord, and that lady, and I think the two coming together at the same time had a bigger impact.
I think it's fantastic. We're just waiting for a toddler now to really be just as well informed now. And then we've kind of got every demographic under the sun there covered. What do you say, Jay?
Yeah, I think you're right on that one. I think also something else I think that we haven't really covered really is because I know some of my Yankee mates out there that are watching are going to be like, when's he going to bring it up? But here in Britain, we need to massively change our free speech laws. We have so many caveats and things that basically we have freedom of expression, but then there's everything else that's added in on top, like the Communications Act that Count Dacula's being done on, and various other acts that just basically go and neuter the hell out of it. And that needs to be massively changed.
Well,
where do you stand with it, Carole?
Sorry?
I was just going to say, where do you stand with that?
I think that's right. I mean, hopefully once we're out of the EU and we bring our laws back under our own control, we might see some changes. Depends how much they're still going to push this immigration thing, really, doesn't it? I think while they're pushing that, they're not going to change the laws, because that's the thing that's controlling us at the moment.
Do you think once they've changed the laws, they'll ever go back? Because they have a habit of, once they take your liberty, they never return it back to you, do they?
This is the worry, isn't it? It depends how they attack. See, I thought May was going to be okay when she first stood up and started talking about Brexit. But then the first obstacle she hit with the Islam issue, she just completely showed what side she was going to be batting for, and it's not our side, basically. And how they can stand up after a terror attack when everything's raw and say it's nothing to do with Islam. I mean, that just makes you want to hit her, doesn't it? And I'm not a violent person.
I would pay to see that, Carole. I would pay to see that, I tell you.
I'd be taken off in shackles. Look, if they can arrest a bloody dog.
Oh, I know, yeah. I could just see you in Guantanamo Bay with the next to all the wrongdoings there. And what have you done? Oh, I only gone and taken out Theresa the Appeal. I'm only going to be on this planet for another week in these orange jumpsuit, but at least I've done that. I feel great about that.
I mean, they really do think we're stupid, don't they? I mean, that's the thing. I just feel insulted all the time. I'm not super intelligent, I'm of average, education and all the rest of it. I just feel totally insulted by the way they treat us and what they say to us. And as I say, my biggest fight is against the government. And you'll see that most of my poems, if you hear any more, have usually got some reference to the government in there, because that's where the problem came from.
Of course.
I don't blame the people for coming.
Well, you can't, because they've been given a golden ticket.
Yeah.
And they're being allowed, when they're given that golden ticket, that there's no basis for a simulation. Just come in as you are.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's what makes it false to me. So they know, and then they know there's going to be a culture clash. Yeah. So that it's the culture clash element now that we're being demonized for, because there was going to be, and always will be, an inevitable culture clash. What do you expect that's going to happen?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Jay, I noticed you've got your chat box going on. Is there any relevant questions before we kind of wrap it up for Carole or yourself? Or
not that I've seen so far, to be honest with you. I haven't really been paying that much attention to it. I have had a little bit of a glance over every now and then, but I've been listening to you and making notes of things that I want to look up later.
I'm sorry if I've commandeered the time and not given Jay enough vocal time.
No, we've all had
that. Perfectly fine. I was gonna say to you guys that I was gonna invite you both on. I'll probably get you on separately onto a live stream with myself. But I've also been requested to get Carole onto one of my live streams as well. So
fantastic.
The request is flying in.
Granny power.
Without doubt. How good would that be live from Australia?
It's doable.
That'd be good.
Oh, I don't know if I could set it up from there.
No, well, if you're in good hands with Jay, the man's a tech genius. So if anyone can make that happen, it would be him.
I'm going out, and I want to try and switch off for a little while for my sake as well. And it's quality time with my daughter and granddaughter and son-in-law. So I want to enjoy it, and I don't want. I
do have a question so far. Are you on Twitter, Carole?
No.
Do you have a Facebook page?
I'm on Facebook. Yeah, I'll give you the contact details.
I think this is more for the general public I'm asking about, really, because obviously I'm guessing that's your private Facebook profile.
It is, yeah. I don't have a public image.
Yeah, you might want to create a Facebook page called Nanny Robinson or something. No, because it looks like a number of people here want to send you stuff. Or Twitter.
Oh wow, wow. No, I mean I've not done Twitter at all, but I'm very flattered by all of it.
No, I think that's a brilliant idea, because you probably don't want to get on video and do your recording. I get that. But you could possibly use your Facebook as a way of just publishing your poems and just putting all your poems down on there. And if you felt like it, you could do the odd little video and put it up there yourself. But, not even if you want to do a video, you could just literally type in your poems. Well, people could use it as kind of a forum for your poems, and they would like it and share it, and then maybe send you their stuff, or just a way as a, maybe I'm not trying to put any ideas here. I'm just literally, there's all different options, because I do get the feeling you want to do something, but you're not quite sure where to go.
As long as I can get the word out there, and whether that's coming on chats like this with you guys, I'm happy to do that. I don't know that I want the responsibility of looking after myself.
Fair enough. Yeah. Well, I got another question here for you. Well, this is just a general question. For me, the answer is yes, but for you two, really, would you support separation of church and state in the UK?
Well, we already have it, don't we?
We should have
it. I suppose in a lot of ways we do, but in a lot of other ways we don't.
We don't. Well, this is the problem, isn't it? This is why Islam is a problem, because they don't separate church and state, or church and law and politics.
Exactly.
But we already have separation of church and state.
I do disagree a little bit. There is a lot of things that do nag me, and to be honest with you, I feel that also the Church of England is responsible a little bit for some of this, because it was the Church of England also lobbied Tony Blair in the 90s to allow more of the to allow Sharia courts to be operated in this country. It was them who, and they
I have to confess to being very confused about the Catholic stance and our own,
I'm just talking about complete separation of all, because the church does have things in government that it's allowed over other things, and all of that needs to be completely removed, in my opinion.
I mean, in the main, we do have separation, and it's the Queen that's the head of the church, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the government the head of the state. There's a crossover. Of course, there's a crossover. Yes, it should be separate, because religion is something that shouldn't be forced down anybody's throat. People come to their own beliefs in their own way.
But I agree with you, Carole. I agree with you. When it comes to the Vatican, and particularly what the Pope talks about frequently, he's more politicized than he's ever been.
Yeah.
In some of his statements, he alludes to being socialist. He's kind of peed on the church a little bit.
He's come out with some he's come out with some really strange stuff, I think.
Yeah, and he's well up for this migration flow.
Yes, yeah.
And this is why one of the reasons I'm in favour of complete separation of church and
exactly.
state.
Yes. He should have no business in this. He's telling people he can't have a wall, but then the Vatican is the most protected place probably in Europe, and it's got one of the biggest walls around it as well. So if he's not being a hypocrite, then who is? It's ridiculous.
So yes, I think we should have. I say we do have it to a degree. There are some overlaps, there are some crossovers, but basically, you know, we have, as I say, the Queen is the head of the church. Although there's another thing, you see, when she goes, and I don't mean that callously, but she is knocking on a bit. She's older than I am. Charles is coming in, and he has already said that in his coronation oath, he will not say that he is a defender of the faith. He will be defender of faiths.
Oh, there you go. A liberal monarchy already. It's worrying, isn't it?
Step in the right direction, I suppose.
Well, yeah,
I'd be a bit more happier if he says defender of those of the faiths and non-faiths.
But it sounds like an appeasement, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's
Does it
giving.
not?
I see
well, I
it.
suppose this is an argument where I would step in and be like, forgetting the Islam argument, but even for me, someone who wants more secularism and, you know, complete separation of all religion from a state, and being anti-theist, I suppose, is just religion in general on that one, really, when it comes to that sort of stuff.
I mean, we do have a lot of faiths going on in this country now. We didn't used to, but, you know, there's all sorts going on now.
Which is great. I'm all in favour of that.
Yeah.
As long as they're all abiding by the law.
As long as it doesn't impinge on my way of life, which is beginning to do, isn't it? That's the thing.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, I agree. But then there's part of me is like, well, if you're going to be so welcoming to all different types of faiths, doesn't your identity go by that happening? If you kind of not submissive, but allowing of everyone to do what they want within your country, and you protect them, because where you've got certain countries that, like your Chinas, your Japans, there's one way of thinking, and that is nationalism, and that's national pride. That no one's calling them racist. You know, so I'm all for people, whoever, you know, I'm a libertarian. As long as you don't harm me, I really got no issue. But then if you've got every faith covered, no, it's all right, Carole. If you've got every faith covered in this country, then aren't you spreading your butter over your toast too much? I mean, shouldn't you kind of be concentrating on what's important for this country?
The principles of this country should be the strongest foundation, and anybody that wants to practice their own religion should be free to do so. Yeah. As long as it doesn't impinge. The problem that we've got is that Islam wants to impinge, and that's what's basically wrong. You know, they are changing our way of life. You know, Sharia, halal. You know. Yeah, that's a different subject.
Oh, without a doubt, you could go on all night. Have you got any more questions there, Jay? Any important ones?
I've just been scrolling. A lot of them are great chat, guys. Much love to Carole, and you know, great work, Phil, and to myself. I haven't seen any other questions so far. Right.
Okay.
So, is there anything else you guys want to bring up before we kind of wrap it up? I don't know how long we've been going, but
well, it's 10:15 now.
You are joking me. Wow. This is what it's like. You know,
you're keeping this granny from her bed.
Oh, jeez. Is that whiskey taking effect or what, Carole? Do you need to have a lie now? No, sorry about that. We do rattle on. I mean, it's been brilliant chats, and we cover so many different points. This is what I was saying to Jay and Brit Girl earlier today in terms of the comments. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to join us. Hello, Brit Girl. You're still tuned in. But, you know, there was no real... You've got talking points, but we're going to deviate all over the place. Yeah. And that's going to take time because there's three people, three different opinions and this and the other. So you can't have... It's hard. I've tried to do it with Tony. I've tried to do it with Peter, where we go, right, an hour, and that's it. But you can't, because you end up all over the place. And, you know, and that's what's enjoyable, because, you know, people drift in and out, and people are always joining. And so I'm hoping people have took a positive from this. I mean, same again, Carole. I think the main thing is people wanted to reconnect with you after that. So this is the follow-up for them. So I think on that level, people will be satisfied. I think you've had lots of information to tell them today. You've given them another poem, which has fed them another little... So honestly, so I do feel that you're gonna, once you get back from Australia, you're gonna have the urge to want to do something. But obviously, like you say, finding the way that appeases you and makes you happy. That is the main thing, rather than taking on something that you'll later regret and which it causes a bit more distress around your family unit or whatever, because nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. And it's not going to... Sorry, go on, Carole.
I'd be happy to, you know, have other chats, you know, on, you know, different subjects and things if you want me to come on and do that. And I've always got a poem, so...
Always more than welcome. What about you, Jay? Have you any last words before we call it a day, mate?
No, I think I've covered everything. Yeah, I think we covered it all really well.
Okay, nice to talk to you, Jay.
You too, as well. Thank you very much for having me, Phil. Much appreciated it. I'm looking forward to organising a stream with us all again.
Are you going Thursday to Rochdale?
Yes.
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Well, I was asking Jay, but
sorry, no, let Jay answer.
Yeah, go on, Joe.
Yes, I should hopefully be there. I really want to go to Telford on the 10th, but at the moment things are looking a bit iffy on that one because there's a council meeting going on there, and the local MP has been refused to speak at that event, which I'm quite shocked about, really.
Yeah, Richard Imam messaged me that earlier. The problem is, same again, it means taking... I'd already be taking a day off work to go on the Thursday. Now, I know people are sacrificing all over the place to do what they're doing, so I'm not saying, oh, I'm really important. I'm not, but you've got to look at it from your own selfish point of view. And I can't afford to take 2 days off. That is the cut and bottom. So it'd mean taking Tuesday off and Thursday. So I've got to prioritise, and I think it's more important that I've covered kind of Telford. So I want to go up to Rochdale and see what's going up there, meet people up there and get that on the channel. And hopefully get back to Telford, but it has to be applicable with what I can actually manage as well. So I'm hoping to see you up there on Thursday, mate. We'll have to get in consultation as the days go on and see how we can meet up before the event. Are you staying up here overnight, or are you going down on the day?
I'm not sure totally on what's going to happen yet. We'll see if I can sort out the 10th yet. Yeah, I'll let you know, don't worry. No problem. Right, well, on what details, mate, how can people reach you? Your Facebook, your YouTube? On Twitter at the WarKettle, or on YouTube, which is the WarKettle as well. Or again, on Facebook, there's a Facebook page, which is also at the WarKettle. I got all my branding sorted pretty well. It's all at the WarKettle, so it's pretty simple. Organisation. Yeah, so just type in at the WarKettle into one of your favourite social media platforms. I'm sure you'll find me. With the old kettle there. I love your intro to your videos, mate. Making the brew. I've got quite a number of them, actually. There's quite a few different ones. I love them all. A good friend of mine, the Talking Donkey, he makes me some awesome intros. Right, okay. And I don't want to know how we come to get the name Talking Donkey, mate. That's probably another conversation that we might need to have off there, but never mind. No, but you know what? It's been fantastic, fascinating conversation. You are welcome, mate. I've enjoyed both your companies there, and I think we've covered a multitude of points, and I think a lot of people would have got a lot of positive, information from these points. So is anything last you want to say before we call it a day, Carole? Well, only the Rochdale. I think the details, because again, it's one of those where we need as many people. It's a working day, which makes it harder, isn't it? But I did pick up from somebody that it's on the 12th. It's 1 p.m. and I think the meeting is at Asda, the old cricket ground. Oh right, okay. Postcode OL126XT, I believe. That's what I read earlier on a Facebook thing. I think it was Richard Inman that put that up. Yeah. That should be pretty accurate. I'm going to try and get there. I'm not sure yet because it's a long drive for me. And I should be getting ready to pack and sort myself out. Right. Yeah. No, priorities. I mean, it'd be absolutely fantastic if you could make it. But, you've got to do what you've got to do. You're going to be sadly missed. But
It's more important you get over there to Australia, see your family, have your family time, and then you can come back, decide how you want to play it. And you're always welcome on this channel. Even if you just phone me up out of the blue and go, hey, do you fancy a stream in a couple of weeks? We can pre-arrange it. Same with WarKettle. I'm sure he's going to be in touch with you.
Oh, definitely.
Maybe.
Certainly.
Okay.
So,
thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you for blessing this channel, because you've made this channel. Oh, well, you have. You know, you've done my channel no amount of good. Really have.
Good.
So I'm glad I managed to get that scoop interview with you. You know, that's brilliant. So this, for me, this has got to come to an end, I guess, at some point. We need Nana Robinson to get a rest, and I need a rest. I'm probably even more tired.
I'm not really ready for bed yet.
you know. Well, I tell you what, between me and you, Carole, we didn't have to do them toilet signals. Remember we were talking about that on Thursday? So we didn't have to do that. So that worked out all right. But I hope people watching have took something from this. I hope you've enjoyed it. From the WarKettle, from Carole, aka Nanny Robinson, and from myself, redpillphil, I'd like to say thank you for watching. I love you all, even the pissing haters. So God bless, and I will see you in Rochdale on Thursday. Okay. See you later, guys.
Good night.
Good night.